probably better over here, just stops the feedback from the end. Okay, Kate Forbes.
Great, thanks very much. Well, so I'm Kate Forbes, and I am one of the new MSPs, so all this stuff about parliamentary process that John's been talking about has been a learning curve for me. I'm also from Dingwall, and my office manager is from Trowes, so it's a particularly local issue. I'm on the Environment, Climate Change and Land Reform Committee in the Scottish Parliament, so we're dealing with a lot of the issues that this particular matter throws up on a weekly basis. And I think over the last year, what this has shown is two things, and it is almost a year after all. It's shown the best of community organisation and profile raising, even for small Highland communities. But secondly, it's given a feeling of powerlessness in the face of decisions that you feel you can't change. And for me, and it's already been touched on, I'm not going to speak as much as Jack has already identified the key problems, but for me it's not just about the environmental damage, it is about small Highland communities who want to have control and a say over the assets in their area, and who are the ones that have to see what's going on, hear what's going on, and bear the brunt of what's going on, whether that's an impact on their economy, or their environment, or on family life, or on school life. So that's what this is about. But in order to change things, and this is what I'm going to dwell on just now, in order to change things, there's three things. There's knowing who has the power to change it, there's knowing what's the winning argument, and then thirdly, there's throwing everything you've got at it. Now, I have heard the criticism that John has very eloquently touched on with regards to the Scottish Government and the SNP. I mean, I don't think your SNP councillor could have done any more than he has been doing. He's been working incredibly, and the number of emails I get at midnight and makes me think, go to sleep! But there are some things, I think, that we do feel powerless about. Now, it's already been talked about that it's the Department of Transport which is the competent authority for applications. And there's been a number of things I've noticed in the last 6 months with being a new MSP that the Scottish Government can rant and rave about and will not see change in it. Now, I think a similar issue to this, in fact, just to purely illustrate the issue, is something like fuel poverty. Now, when it comes to the ship-to-ship, yes, the Scottish Government has power over environmental planning. It does not have power over granting of licences. When it comes to fuel poverty, the Scottish Government has control and power to try and alleviate poverty, but it has no control or power over the prices that energy company charge our Highlanders. If you've looked over the last few months in terms of the EU referendum, the Scottish Government can rant and rave as much as it wants. It has a mandate from the Scottish people, the majority of whom voted Remain. It has the power to represent the Scottish people. But if you've noticed the UK Government taking one note of interest in what the Scottish Government is saying, then that's passed me by, because I've certainly not seen it. Now, that's not to say that the Scottish Government shouldn't be ranting and raving about an issue that does affect our waters. And I think that one area where it hasn't been particularly strong is in Marine Scotland. Marine Scotland should have submitted to that consultation, and it didn't. Now, one of the things that I have tried to organise, there's a new acting head currently of Marine Scotland, and they have said that they're willing to come up to Cromarty or to Inverness to either host a public meeting or something else in order to provide more expert scientific answers to their views. So I hope that will be organised over the next few weeks, and I've already been in touch with Duncan Bowers about that, because that's where you will get the answers. Marine Scotland are the ones that should be representing Scottish water. Now, again, in terms of the comments that have been made about Maxine Smith, you know, Highland councillors can speak for themselves, I've had so many conversations with the special advisor to Rosanna Cunningham, and with Rosanna Cunningham herself, and with other special advisors, and with Paul Wheelhouse about ship to ship. And whatever those comments were in the press in October from Maxine and earlier this year do not represent the views of the Scottish Government at all. And those conversations that I've had, at least, have utterly undermined the idea that the Scottish Government supports this application in any shape or form. A Scottish Government cannot go against the SNP conference. And at the SNP conference, the motion was passed that conference expresses its strong opposition to the present application for a licence to permit the transfer, etc., etc. The Scottish Government cannot, based on the party machine, go against conference, and that is the view of conference. So, Maritime and Coast Guard Agency are the ones with the power, and over the last few months, we've tried to develop a relationship, particularly with Stan Woznicki, to find out what it is that will make a difference. Now, he's been crystal clear that the thing that will make a difference is the scientific evidence to prove the environmental damage that will be caused by the ship-to-ship application. And that comes on to the next point about what the winning argument is. And I think this is the argument that we have to go down. We all know of the various different adverse impacts it will have. I've already touched on what I think will be an adverse impact on local communities, on people choosing to visit Cromarty. Cromarty has done an incredible job, Cromarty particularly, but a lot of those coastal communities have done a hugely brilliant job over the last few decades in changing our tourist industry, for example. Cromarty being at the end of the Black Isle, and you still have people coming from far and wide to visit. One little decision could undermine decades of hard work that have gone into building up our small Highland coastal communities. And whilst I'm concerned about that, I think if we're going to make a difference here, it needs to be the scientific, environmental, adverse impact that's the route that we go down. Now, we've already discussed that Cromarty Firth Port Authority have had to go back and redo their application, essentially. Now, it's not due to January. That's quite a lot of work that they're trying to put in. That's quite a lot of evidence that the initial application was awful. It was essentially a copy and paste job from the Scapa Flows by the same consultants. And the Scapa Flows is very different from Cromarty and the Moray Firth. So one point that's been raised to me is that it's unfair that whilst environmental groups and Cromarty Rising and others give evidence of all the failings, the Port Authority then get to go away and just change some of these things and bring back a new application. That's unfair. I don't think you can keep going on doing that. You have to hit the hard rock of some scientific evidence that says this isn't going to work and this is going to be hugely detrimental to our marine environment. I'm interested to see what comes back in January, but I think if we can do anything together between now and January, it's going down this route of making sure we have as much scientific evidence as possible of the detrimental environmental impact. Particularly touching on the things that haven't been raised at all, like air pollution, like the fumes. So my 2 points originally were knowing who has the power. It's the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency that we need to convince. We can continue talking about what the Scottish Government should or shouldn't be doing, but to be perfectly honest, it's not going to make a huge difference. Secondly, it's knowing what the arguments are that are going to win it, and it has to come down to the scientific evidence of adverse environmental impact. And thirdly, it's continuing to throw everything we've got at it. And over the last few months, over the last few years, it's been clear that in Cromarty there is a huge amount of expertise when it comes to fighting the application, and it's just keeping that pressure on with meetings like this. And I hope with this next meeting of some kind with Marine Scotland over the next few weeks, which I will work with Duncan and any others to try and organise. So that's my thoughts. Thank you.